666.
As we know, Saudi Arabia is, stepping full forward into convening and all sorts of sports events. And we did a segment previously on just, I think it was a month of February, the number of international exhibits and meetings and that sort of thing that were being held in Riyadh. But anyway, a big one is Saudi Arabia's bid to host the 2030 Expo, World Expo, but it is Expo 2030. So competition is heating up for the right to host the 2030 Expo, World Expo, which is a massive event, as we know. And if everything goes well, it can generate significant revenue, jobs, global attention. It'd be a real coup to get it. So late last month in June, the three competing cities, which are Rome, Riyadh, and South Korea's second biggest city, Busan, presented their bids at a key meeting of the Paris-based Bureau International des Expositions, BIE. The heads of state for all three countries, Italy, South Korea, and Saudi Arabia, were all in France to support their country's bid. Mohammed bin Salman spent a week there. I think he was doing other things, but he was there to support this bid. It should be noted that Odessa in Ukraine submitted a bid for this 2030 Expo prior to Russia's invasion last year. I think they'd like to get it, but their bid was not part of the official presentation. It's unlikely to be successful. Anyway, the vote will be taken later this year in November at the 173rd General Assembly of the BIE. Each of the 179 members will have one secret ballot each. So, let the lobbying begin. This is again, it'll become a very political and, hotly contested affair, I'm sure. Saudi Arabia has allocated $7.8 billion worth of investments for Expo 2030. And the theme, if they should win it, is, quote, the era of change together for a foresighted tomorrow, unquote. You'll be interested in this, Lucian. The actual proposed Expo site would be near the under construction King Salman International Airport, so north of the city. Visitors would access the exhibition site through the Riyadh Metro, obviously, and we've carried a couple of these in the Sustig Review this week. So there's a mock-up of the Expo as sort of what it would look like, and it features 226 show pavilions in a circular shape. Participating countries would be selected flexibly based on their longitude, so the countries from the north and the south would be mixed together. This is to symbolize Saudi Arabia's efforts to enable global collaboration. So, again, I talked about the campaigning that's involved with this, and it's global. Saudi Arabia, I'm not sure what Italy or South Korea are doing. I'm sure they'll be doing their own campaign. Saudi Arabia will allocate $343 million as part of its program to assist 100 countries participating in the Expo 2030. The financial package will be for assistance in areas such as pavilion construction, maintenance, technology support, travel, and holding events. Interesting. That's an interesting incentive. Vote for us, and we'll help pay for your pavilion. The next World Expo is in 2025. It'll be held in Osaka, Japan. They are anticipating 28 million visitors, 150 countries, and 25 organizations are taking part. You can see if you're getting 28 million visitors, and we saw over 20 million visitors to Doha last year, why it's so attractive. So what are the odds for Saudi Arabia? I don't know. The last six, if you include Japan. So, all right. So 2000 was Germany, 2005, Japan, 2010, China, 2015, Italy, Milan, 2020, UAE, Dubai, 2025, Japan, Osaka. So, I don't know how much weight they put in cycling it, but I'm guessing they don't like to do back to back, although they have done it. So you've had Italy in 2015, the Middle East in 2020. You'll have Asia in 2025. So, where does it go in 2030? I mean, you can go to the Middle East, back to Saudi Arabia. Does it go back to Asia, back to back? North Korea? Does it go to Rome, Italy, who had it in 2015? And Italy, by the way, has hosted a number of World Expos. Anyway, the race is on. It's a big deal. We'll keep tabs on it. Should it come to pass, should Saudi Arabia, win the bid, that's yet another sort of a target date to look forward to, and another goal in terms of building out Saudi Arabia's infrastructure and all the things that would be part of doing a World Expo. And Saudi Arabia would want to do it first rate. So it would be another fascinating aspect of their global coming out, as it were.
Yeah, Richard, great pronunciation there on BIE. Now you see what I deal with as a guy with a French first name all the time, and the preference for the anglicized version of it. Richard, really good. I mean, they have been working on this for a long time. You mentioned they hosted the G20, which was during a pandemic year, a bit of a disappointment for them because they really wanted it to be a bit of a showcase of a changing Riyadh. I thought it was interesting too, and you mentioned a little bit about the investment that they are putting into it, and they plan to put into it. Khalid Al Fallah said in France, when effectively the entire Saudi government was in France for this big pitch, that they would invest $7.8 billion in the Expo, as you said. So they're willing to put up big money. I thought that was a lot of money, but in fact, Rome's bid is the most expensive. It's 10 billion euros, or $10.9 billion that they're putting forward to host the Expo 2030 if they win it. And as you mentioned, Richard, Milan just had it. So they're hoping to have sort of the renaissance that Milan has had since it hosted it in 2015. Milan, had a big turnaround and now is considered increasingly more and more cosmopolitan as a city. In other words, the Expo is a huge boom for whoever gets to host it. And so, these cities it's strange because they compete, they're putting themselves forward and marketing themselves as the best destination. They're also kind of competing with each other. And in any competition, there's going to be, Italy already had it and they had it not that long ago. So you're really going to give it to Rome and after Milan had it. So this is interesting. Like the pursuit of it is interesting. And then if it comes to Riyadh's story is we've had Vision 2030 on the books since 2016. We're actually going to talk about that in a little bit, but what a story that would be. The year of our big plan maturing, 2030 would be when we host the Expo. Like that's a really cool story for Saudi Arabia. I'm rooting for them. Rome is my favorite city on the planet, but I'm still rooting for Riyadh because of the 966 podcast, and it'd be amazing to go to, but yeah. So did you mention, Richard, when this decision gets handed down? Because I know the final round of bidding was, or the, sales pitching, I guess it was, the BIE was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, this November. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So we will be keeping tabs on it. Well, maybe we'll do a little celebratory episode if they get it. But Richard, it's also very cool, and I'm glad you noted that it will be near that new airport. So they're going to have some overlap on the infrastructure development there.
Well, and the Royal Commission for Riyadh City is working on an expansion plan. I mean, it's sort of hand in glove with an expansion that's ongoing anyway. It's also interesting because they are thinking, or they may have put their hat in for the World Cup in 2030. I think that's probably been moved to 2034 because that just might be too much. But so Saudi Arabia is putting their hat in a lot of different rings. This would be a big win.
Yeah, this would be a big one. It would be a longer sort of, maybe not as much as of a media impact, would be a longer benefit. These things last months. So, the World Cup's only a few weeks long. So
it'd be from October to March if they did it in Saudi, in Riyadh, obviously over the winter months.
Yeah. Well, they also have Riyadh season. So if they're in their 12th or 13th Riyadh season for that would be quite the mashup.
They may set it all aside for this, that'd be a big thing, but it's kind of fun. I mean, and you were diplomatic in saying they might, be competing against each other. I think it's hardcore. I think they're going to be, trying to really sway, key countries. Maybe the EU all goes with Rome, maybe the Asia all goes with North Korea. Where does Africa go? Mm-hmm. They all have a vote. It's one vote. So, there'll be a lot of politicking out there. Where's the U.S. and South America go?
Yeah. Probably one of the best books that I've read, Richard, Devil in the White City, about the World's Fair in Chicago and the murder. And it shows you how old this thing is, and how cool it is. So good for them. And both of us, I feel like, have heard nothing but incredible praise for Dubai's effort. in hosting it. A couple people that I know that went were like, it was really cool.
Yeah.
So